Welcome to Premier Sports Talk. We are live in the studio, bringing you the sports talk show for the people. Let's dive in.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. I'm Double P, host of Premier Sports Talk. And this day two up there in Cleveland in the Berea facility, Andrew Berry is doing a press conference. I'll give you my live reactions. I hope you enjoy it. Hit that like, subscribe, and share if you appreciate the content I'm giving you. And let's get with it.
Part of the reason we're really excited is because we expect this to be a very competitive camp from top to bottom on the roster. Obviously, over the last two offseasons, we made some difficult decisions in order to set up the franchise for sustained success. But we're really excited about the young core that we have in place on both sides of the ball, and are looking forward to see them grow and develop over the next several weeks. I also want to just mention Todd and his staff. They did a fantastic job running a great offseason program, and we're all looking forward to seeing their vision come to life on the grass here as we begin training camp. Last thing before I open it up for questions, I wanted to just take a few moments to acknowledge Chris Powell and Scotty Springer. They've had a fantastic Cleveland Browns career. Chris was our longest tenured employee. Scotty was our third longest tenured employee. And between them, they have 5 decades of experience overseeing and running, the grounds crew. Those two individuals, they embody everything that you want from an employee: servant leadership, excellence in their role, and ultimate humility. They did not have glamour positions, in the organization, but all they did was excel and treat people with kindness and decency throughout. So it's bittersweet for us because while we're happy to celebrate such long and excellent careers, we're really, really sad to see both those two go. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Can you maybe first address getting Denzel and Grant both wrapped up long term? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, really excited. Those guys are, they're core members of our team. I was joking with Peter. I was like, okay, well, Denzel's 29 and Grant, he's 27, soon to turn 28, and they're the elder statesmen, of the team. But really excited to have those guys. They're what we want in the organization. They embody being Cleveland Browns, and happy to have them for the long haul.
How do you think they fit with the plan as you have gotten younger over the last 2 years to have kind of a couple of those older guys still hanging around for a while?
Well, I'll tell you what, if old is your mid and late 20s, then I'm in tough shape here, Scott. So, but listen, they're excellent players, still playing at a high level at their respective positions. Really excited them as contributing members to the team.
And how important is it then for guys like them and some of the other veterans on this team, when you have such a young core? A lot of those veterans are that were here last year aren't here this year. How much do you expect to lean on them as you guys kind of try to shape up the culture of this current iteration of the Browns?
Yeah, look, I think that, core veterans, let me back up. I don't think it's just for any veteran, just having veterans, just have veterans. But when you have Denzel and Grant, who are top-level players and top-level people, they end up being kind of like tent poles, within your organization and within your roster. So it's a luxury and incredibly valuable to have, when you construct the team. And also, both those guys are homegrown. So
how much does extending both of those guys, who I think third contracts for both of them with this organization, kind of maybe relax anyone that might have gotten a little nervous after the Miles trade, and seeing that just the organization showing commitment to guys that have really stepped up.
I'll be honest, Daryl, that really didn't have any consideration into it. Like, there are very few players in the NFL that get to third contracts. Now, maybe it's greater now that you're seeing more second contracts be 3-year terms as opposed to 5-year terms. But I think, since we've been here in 2020, the third contract guys have been, really Joel, Miles, and then really, these two. And it's an incredible accomplishment when you can get to that point. But you've got to be obviously the right type of player and right type of person.
Andrew, just what about the timing too, and getting those done? You avoid any potential hold-ins and just especially knowing, like you said, they're the elder statesmen, and you guys have a new coordinator and all that.
Yeah, so I'd say a couple things. Like, we're always very proactive with our players. Too, candidly, we don't do hold-ins here. So, like, our guys know that, but we're really happy to get those guys done. The guys know that, but we're really happy to get those guys done. The business taken care of before camp. So, quite honestly, I'm not sitting up here answering those questions from you all, and they can just get going and focus on playing football as opposed to what's happened with their deal.
Andrew, when guys have their contract is up, but it's in place, but there's no guarantee of money. Does that then create a chance for dialogue to do things?
Honestly, Terry, it's actually probably. It's probably less about the lack of, guaranteed money, because to some degree, like, once we get to this point, it's for a veteran, it's in essence guaranteed anyway. So for ours, we've usually taken the policy that, we will talk about any deal, 1 or 2 years early. That doesn't mean that we'll complete any deal 1 or 2 years early, and both those individuals fall into that category.
Andrew Clowney came and left yesterday. Do you feel your need for rotational and Trump's age? He's 33. He doesn't seem to fit with the youth movement.
Yeah, Tony, I think you can't look at the roster construction in a vacuum. Certainly, we've had a bit of a youth movement here, but that doesn't necessarily mean like every transaction is going to be a 24-year-old player or something along those lines. Other things that come into play are certainly the role and fit. Financial costs, and then like how it fits in the, let's say, the broader construction of either the position group or the side of the ball.
So where do things stand with you and Clowney?
Really good visit. Things that we still have to work through. Hopeful that we can add him to the team, but it's still in the balance.
He doesn't seem like a guy that wants to toil through training camp.
I think that's an inaccurate perspective on him. Like, I think he would tell you if he was standing up here, his most productive years are when he has a good hearty camp. I think that comment is quite honestly unfair.
Andrew, as you go into a season where you guys are one of, or maybe the youngest teams in the league, how do you kind of judge the success of this year, just beyond the simplicity of wins and losses?
So what's funny, Dan? I didn't know you would ask the question, but I was like, I need a better response, because I keep getting asked this question in spring. I keep saying that young doesn't necessarily. The implication is like young does not necessarily equal bad. Like, I was looking up, out of the 7 teams that were the youngest last year, it included Green Bay, who's always young. It included Philadelphia, who won their division. It included Seattle, who won the Super Bowl, and included Baltimore. So like, I don't think that like that has to be like a cop out for expectation or performance, so to speak. But as we think about it, like, our goal going into the season is we want to be a tough and competitive team that develops and plays its best football towards the end. We want to control and focus on the things that we can control, because so many things go into factor in terms of like what happens over the course of the year. If we can focus on the narrow set of things that are within our control, how we prepare every day, how we organize, things of that nature, then we believe that we're going to be happy with what the end of the year looks like.
Andrew, with past quarterback competitions with this organization, there always seemed to be like a caveat that came with them. A piece of the roster might have been incomplete or whatever it was. When you look at this current quarterback competition and you look at the young skill guys that you have brought in here, do you kind of feel like this might be one of the more fair, balanced, equitable quarterback competitions that you guys have been able to have in a training camp at the moment?
I don't know that I could. It's a good question, Dara. I don't know that I could comment on that. I guess, part of it is, truth be told, we haven't even seen the team in pads yet. So, like, it's a projection in terms of what we have. We're excited about it, but, none of us really, truly know. I guess the second thing I would say is quarterback's a tough position to play in the NFL. No roster is perfect. So I understand what you're getting at. I don't know that it would be fair of me to characterize as like, okay, this is a more fair competition than others in the past.
Andrew, it's a similar situation as last year where you have a crowded quarterback with 4 guys, some young quarterbacks. Are you approaching it with a similar mindset as last year where you're open to taking 4 guys on a 53-man roster, but you're always also open to,
Yeah, I mean, I am. I think you've heard me say it's the most valuable position. And like, look, they've got to earn it. Where, it's not just a situation where, guys are on scholarship in terms of a roster spot. So we'll see. Like, I don't think that you can necessarily be prescriptive at the beginning of camp because things are going to surprise you in both directions. Injuries are going to pop up. Opportunities that you don't foresee on, July 31st, may show up on August 31st. So we try and maintain as much flexibility as possible.
Do you think it's important to have the quarterback starter name for the joint practice?
I think it's important to have the starting quarterback name before week 1.
Do you think, Andrew, are you convinced now after, even though you haven't seen them in pads, that your offensive line is going to be better than what you had last year?
We'll feel really good about the players, the guys that we brought in that group as a whole. I think, you hit the nail on the head, though, Jeff, the fact that, like, we haven't seen him in pads. So, TBD.
Andrew, with Jadavian again, is there any hesitation given how his last kind of tenure here ended?
Yeah, I'd say 2 things to that, Scott. I think number 1, like, reconciliation is possible in life, right? And I don't subscribe to the notion of defining people by their worst or best moment. But in this case, like, a moment of weakness, he made a mistake. It's something you talk through. We've maintained a good relationship with JD since 2022. And I think the second thing is, like, we had him for 2 years, and it was certainly a lot more positives than negatives, despite, how it ended. So we do feel comfortable bringing him back into the organization if it's the right fit on both sides.
Andrew, 1-8 game.
Mm-hmm.
So what can fans look forward to? That's a tough line.
There's construction going on at the site.
Yeah.
That's why you hear that noise.
Listen, I think it goes back to what I said earlier, Terry. We're really excited about this core. We've got a group of young players that we've invested in, that we anticipate growing and developing over the course of the year, with the veteran infrastructure. And we're looking forward to seeing this team on the grass. I feel really good about the staff, the coaching staff that we have in place. Certainly see their vision for how they want to play the roster, and we've got to go out and go do it.
Andrew, you said Jared was the reason why you were the Miles trade was palpable for you, to do. What have you seen out of him since he's been here? How have you seen him sort of, accept the challenge that's ahead of him, and just how is he sort of activated?
Well, I think probably the only thing, like, let me back up. Like, as a player, we know how effective, how disruptive he is. You really haven't seen that as much just because we haven't been in pads. Like, I think anything that you're really trying to say there is probably probably unfair. I think the guy, rare work ethic, nonstop motor, outstanding teammate, very passionate about football, and he has an energy that is very infectious, for that entire group. That D-line room, they are super, super tight right now. It's been pretty cool to see them come together this offseason.
Andrew, I know sacks aren't everything, but can you give an example of a player who never had double-digit sacks in college and then went on to be a double-digit sack guy?
Danielle Hunter.
Is it uncommon, or?
I don't know that off the top of my head. You just asked me for an example.
Andrew,
Yep.
In lieu of the sort of question about the young roster and what success looks like, I guess for the rookie class specifically, what are you kind of hoping to see, learn about that group here at training camp before the season?
When rookies come in, we expect them to compete, and we expect them to be productive players on the roster. That all being said, not naive to the fact that last year's class was pretty unique in terms of how quickly and how effectively they hit the ground running. But that being said, it's like, hey, like, you know, it's a job. We're in professional football now. And do I think that, you know, our players when they're in year one are going to be as great as they are in year 3, year 5, whatever, you know, no, but we expect them to be positive contributors to the team this year.
Andrew, when it comes to the quarterback situation, I hear this from people all the time. Todd Monken feels that you guys have 2 quality starters on the roster right now. Why not go with the young guy who might have a chance to be your quarterback of the future?
Oh, good question, man.
I wouldn't rule anything out in terms of the whole quarterback of the future discussion. Like, ultimately, we're going to play the player who is the most productive, you know, on the field. You know, I know Scott's over here saying that 27 is old, but, you know, I think Deshaun's only 30. Deshaun's only 30. So there's no need to make any decisions about the future right now. And we'll let it play out and figure it out as we go.
It's obviously it's a results business, and everyone's looking at the results of a given play, whether it's in practice or in a game, specifically as a quarterback. So, like, how do you, beyond just a completed pass, how do you, I guess, evaluate a quarterback's performance independent of the results?
It's a good question, Daryl. I think context matters, right? Like, what are we trying to do? Like, okay, we're in a scripted period in practice. Like, okay, are we in 3rd and long where there's, you know, a different measure of success than we're doing, you know, 2nd and short situations? Why was the play successful? Did we complete the pass, but it was like the wrong progression and we got lucky? Or did we, you know, throw an interception because the receiver, like, you know, broke off his route, or there was like a lack of protection? And then a big part of it is like getting with the coaching staff, understanding the intent of, you know, what we're trying to accomplish with that group. It could be like, hey, you know, we want them to be more aggressive in this set of periods because we're in the lab, so to speak. Or, hey, these are more realistic game situations. This is like a kind of really like grade as you go because we're simulating a true game. So I know I threw a lot of stuff out you right there, but it's probably you take those in sections and then you evaluate it with the full context.
Andrew, knowing that Denzel and Grant are actually old, I'm trying to push back past that for a second.
Yeah.
And I know it's been asked a couple times, but could you say more and explain more? When you traded Miles, it seemed like it could have been a fork in the road. Totally embrace or jump into a youth movement, and you didn't take that route here with these contracts. So why not?
I think the big thing, I guess, maybe going back to the Miles decision, Nate, is, you know, I mentioned like that wasn't like plan A going into the offseason. I would categorize that as, hey, this was a unique opportunity that we didn't necessarily anticipate doing or anticipate being available to us. So making that trade didn't fundamentally alter our approach to team building from that time forward. Denzel and Grant, they're in the primes of their career. They're high-level players. They're high-level people. Those are the types that we want to continually make investments in.
You mentioned Todd at the beginning. How have you seen him kind of handle and embrace his first chance to be an NFL head coach?
Yeah, Todd's awesome. I think Todd, the best way to describe him is he is old school discipline with new school relationships and football. And how many of you watch Landman? Anyone of you watch Landman here? Okay, so Todd, to me, he's like Billy Bob Thornton's character, Tommy Norris in Landman, where here's a guy who's highly intelligent, great critical thinking skills, great street savvy, rare problem solver, but he can also relate to the 21-year-old on the oil rig, the head of the drug cartel, or the billionaire financier in the office. That is Todd Monken, and that's like an incredible skill to have as a head coach.
Andrew, how important is the development of the depth on the end? Obviously, Jared first. You guys are looking for a big production of it, him, Alex Wright, to step up in that role. But the guys that will come in a rotation, how important is it to identify kind of those pieces that you have out here?
Yeah, I think quite honestly, between Jared, Alex, and Isaiah, we're really happy with that top 3. And then I think as we go beyond that, like there's a great opportunity for a number of players in that room to really step up and fill the void. I think back to, it might have been 2 years ago, we claimed Cam Thomas off of the waivers, and he really grew before signing the contract in Atlanta this offseason. He really grew into a really productive, what we would call Bravo unit defensive end for us. So I think there are a number of younger players or less experienced players that there will be really good competition for that spot. But it's important because, we wave our D-line. They're like hockey lines, right? Where it's like you're go, 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 go. Okay, the next shift is in. That depth is incredibly important.
Have you ever had a moment like yesterday where you have to walk out and tell somebody, hey, your contract signed, and then they go put their helmet on? What was that like for you to sort of?
So the other situation we had that was similar to that was Nick Chubb a couple years ago. And what happens in this, the rare situations where that happens are you're like at the 1 inch line and you're trying to like hammer out, language or some like minor like detail. And you and the agent, you look at each other and you're like, okay, what we don't want to have happen is this guy's on the practice field and we're at the 1/2 inch line and they have some fluke injury. And then you and I are both looking at, well, like we can't do the deal. And then your client's going to ask you, okay, well, why wasn't the deal done before I hit the field? So we've had like 2 of those situations, but those are really the only situations when that type of thing happens.
So I'm Double P, host of Premier Sports Talk. I'm cutting this this particular interview short. I have to get ready for we will be hearing from, at least is what they put out on the social media line, is that we are going to be hearing both from Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson today. It's supposed to come on either at 12:15 or 12:30. I want to make sure I'll be able to give you that premiere drop, hearing it live here on Premier Sports Talk. Andrew Berry said some key things there. He spoke very highly of Coach Todd Monken. Coach Todd Monken's an old school, disciplined coach, but he can also relate to the younger generation here. He's the ultimate complete package for an NFL coach. Keeps people accountable, doesn't like messy play. And he's going to give everybody, like we already heard Todd Monken say, give everybody a chance to take the exam, to play for their position. They have the opportunity to be first string on the team. And we heard Coach Todd Monken say, and a lot of people are analyzing it or perceiving it the wrong way. We heard Todd Monken say quite frequently, he doesn't pick the starting quarterback. He says the players pick the starting quarterback. When he says players, he's speaking about each individual player, their performance on the field. That's specifically what he talks about. Their performance, how they react and elevate the players around them. That's what he's speaking about. I'm so looking forward to continuing watching this. I call the Cleveland Browns the new America's team because everybody's eyes, at least I think, I won't say everybody, a majority of people's eyes is on this QB battle up there in Cleveland with the Browns between Watson and Sanders. Hey, on my channel, I don't tear one man down for another one. I hope that whoever has the best performance as a whole, that performance will decide who's QB1, and I hope that the Browns ownership don't override that. Let the best performer win in all the positions, and may they have a successful season. I'm Double P, host of Premier Sports Talk. Drop your comments down in the chat. Let me know how you feel about what you just heard come out of the words of General Manager Andrew Berry's mouth. And to help push this out in the YouTube algorithm, the ask is hit that like button. If you hit subscribe to the channel, you need to subscribe to the channel because I give you the latest and the greatest of what's going on up there with the Cleveland Browns. And if you do subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll get all the notifications wherever I go live. I'm Double P, host of Premier Sports Talk. Again, the intent is for me to bring you live press conference from day 2, hearing from Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. And also, the plan is to give you day 2 live on the field highlights. That's my plan. I'll see you on the next one, and may you have a blessed day. Peace.